me under a few meters of ice. This image is taken at the White Sea in northern Russia, very close to the Arctic Circle. It's a very impressive image. The beautiful thing about this place is that I actually dive under sea ice, which is not so common. It only happens in the polar regions. And another beautiful thing about this image is the interaction of tides with the sea ice, creating these daunting structures. Now, this is what I absolutely love to do. I love to get out there. I love to get in the water. I love to explore the natural world around me. I'm attracted to all regions, but I'm particularly attracted to polar regions. I find them very void of humans, of all we have built, and they're very ancient and wild. And the first time I was in Antarctica, I actually jumped into the water and I had whales on one side and penguins on the other, and I had fur seals biting in the camera lens and leopard seals showing up, and I literally felt like I had ended up in Jurassic Park. Now, most people, when they see these images, they associate this with danger or with risk, or at least, the very least, they would see themselves doing this. And after 10 years of experience, I came to the conclusion that this is actually not all that difficult. I'm not a super athlete. I'm not super outdoorsy. Well, I got to be, but it's not all that difficult, and I think that most people can actually do this, and I think you can do this too. People associate this with danger, but I think most people forget when they see this that this takes years of practice. We have the best equipment and the most solid teamwork before we actually do this. But I also want you to realize is that you don't take your first diving lesson one day and you end up under 10 meters of ice in Antarctica the next. Practice not only makes perfect, but it also extends your boundaries. This image was taken along the Antarctic Peninsula, very close to the Antarctic Circle, where I went diving with icebergs for the first time. And I love this image for two reasons. Before I went to Antarctica, I had the idea, like most people, that Antarctica is a very rough and wild and very white place, and most of all, very lifeless. But I think this image shows a serene side of Antarctica, and actually a playful side. And I used to play near the icebergs all the time. I used to love to touch the ice. It almost feels like a kind of plastic. It's very strange. But I also love this image because it symbolizes a very important truth for me, namely that when I was in high school, when I was 16, and somebody would have told me I would be diving under an iceberg in Antarctica 5 years from now, I would have not believed that. I absolutely would not have believed it. I would laugh. And that is also a lesson I learned, that you can develop passion. Actually, psychological research actually has found the same truth, is that passion results from action. And so you have to get out there and start doing things. Doesn't matter what it is, and you will create passion. And eventually, my passion resulted in going to Antarctica. And that leads me to another story I'd like to share, and that's the one about whales. This image was also taken at the White Sea in a closed basin where 3 beluga whales are being reintroduced into the wild after being kept at an oceanarium. The fact that they were kept in a closed basin that were very used to humans was a very perfect way for me to get comfortable with big toothed whales, because I can be nervous too. So I got in the water, and these whales immediately were very warm and playful, and I learned that there are these great non-threatening creatures. And so they swam around me, and sometimes they would swim up to me with great speed, and they would just stop in front of me, almost smiling, or they would just give me a nudge and I would tumble over in the water column, or they would create this wave with their tail and I would tumble the other way. A year later, I was put up for the test to actually dive with wild whales. This image was taken in Newfoundland on the east coast of Canada. It's pretty impressive. Humpback whales are about 20 meters in size. And we had been snorkeling with these animals for a week, and on the last day, We decided to just relax and lay back, and we're cruising with the Zodiac into a remote bay, and we didn't expect to see any more whales until all of a sudden a mother whale and a calf pop up the surface. Now, when a mother whale has a calf, you want to be more careful. You don't want to intimidate her, you don't want to frighten her, because she will be protective. And so I decided to stay next to the boat, just lay in the water, while my colleague, who's also the photographer of these incredible images, Renee Lipman, near the two. And so there I was, lying around alone, and I was gazing into the depth of the water column until something extraordinary happened. So the whale appeared, after all, very slowly, and she paused, and she looked me straight into my eyes. And at this moment, I felt the conceptual boundary between me as a human and her as an animal cease to exist. I felt that I was no longer more human than her, and she was no longer more animal than me. And that's a life-changing event. And actually that day, I discovered planet Earth as a living planet. So I like you to take home that you can do a lot more than you think you can. Think outside the box. And then most importantly, go and do stuff. Go out there and do stuff. And you will find that you start loving things. And when you start loving things, you will find amazing experiences in this world. Thank you.